Yeah. So what is some advice that you would give to incoming residents for their first year to help them prepare just mentally and emotionally, maybe even physically to, get going?
Yeah, honestly, like, I mean, good thing you mentioned physically because you don't
Yeah.
really think about it until you're really in it, or like you can't even prepare for it. No matter like the amount of, hours that you work as a medical student, it's still never the same. I mean, you might work with like alongside the residents and you do all this work, but it's just never the same because still at the end of the day, mentally, you leave and you go home and you study and you're kind of relaxed. But I found it as a resident, at least, it's hard sometimes to do so because you go home and you're like, oh my God, like, was this the right decision that I made? Was this, did I forget to do this? Like, you're always thinking constantly. So you come home and even then you're might be physically, you're sitting on the couch, relaxing, but mentally you're somehow always at work. Like I try not to, but it's really hard. And sometimes you're, on the phone, we have like, the app where, the patient, like it's called Epic. So we are just able to look through the charts when we need to, or, so yeah, I'm always like, when I'm leaving work, I'm still checking. I'm like, oh my God, did the lab results come back for this patient? Did the imaging come back for this patient? So I think that's the toughest part of it all, of like being a resident when you compare it to being a resident and a medical student. But um, I think the long hours that just it kind of builds up on its own. So I know that again, like you can't prepare for it. And I was like, oh, like I'm an athlete and I should be fine. I'll be okay. But it just like your body goes through something that it's never been through before. And so like some of the long hours, I mean, we have the shifts that are, we can be there from 4 a.m. in the morning and then till 8 a.m. the next day. So that's a 28-hour shift. And, sometimes or most of the time, there's not even, 30 minutes for you to kind of lay down and close your eyes. I mean, there are times where you're just like at the computer, you're snoozing for 5 minutes and then you wake back up and you got to keep going. So it can definitely get tough, especially if you have to do, a few of those in a row or, a bunch of these long shifts, like calls over the month. But I think that was personally for me something the hardest to get used to. Um, Otherwise, I think mentally going into it, you have to be very open-minded about what's to come, so to say. I mean, you're always, as an intern, you're always going to get yelled at. You're always, they're always making mistakes, unfortunately, especially in the first 6 months when you're just learning kind of your left from right. Like you have to be studying, but also learning how to be in the hospital setting, how to work with everyone. Again, like when you're on call, you have your own pager, you have your own set of things that you have to do. And like usually, at least for us, when we're on call, we have only 3 people. So the chief, the mid-level, and you as an intern. So you take care of floor patients. The mid-level sees the console, and then the chief is usually overseeing everything plus like operating. Like so it really is a lot of responsibility that you might not be ready for, but the best thing I have to say is that it gets easier and it gets better. And I think it doesn't get easier or better because I mean you get better at what you do, but also you've just gotten so used to the routine of the things you do that I'm hoping me repeating this year, not only am I gonna learn more, but I'm also maybe become even more efficient at the things that I do now. I'll be able to take even better care of my patients, especially overnight, like as I'm learning and, hopefully to make less mistakes. And that's kind of all you can do going year by year.
Yeah, I mean, just taking it as it comes and taking it slow and learning how to really have those breaks when you get them, being able to shut
Yeah,
off for a couple minutes or a couple hours, especially in your off time. I feel like that once you
absolutely.
learn how to do that, you'll be so much better off and actually able to rejuvenate and everything. But yeah, 28-hour shifts, that's pretty long to be working for, especially multiple times in a week or month.
Yeah, especially
What
being
do you,
in the hospital alone for that time, 28 hours is just way too long.
yeah, yeah. So did they have, is there some way that you can, you know, nourish yourself? Did they have good food that you were able to be able to have
Yeah, I
during
mean,
those
yeah, some
breaks?
hospitals are honestly better than others. I mean, there are, some nicer hospitals that they have, you know, better food, or they have food there for you. And then there are obviously, you know, some of the hospitals overnight, they only would have like one little, like we usually all go to like ABP, that Obama pun, no, never know how to pronounce it like correctly, but just say ABP. So that's like the one place that we have at all hospitals. So, you know, there's only so many like sandwiches and salads you can eat all throughout the months that you're there. So I actually tend to pack all of my own lunches and food, and I was a lot better at it at first because I had more time to just like, you know, cook, and I like prepare for the next few days, and I'll have my salads and I don't know, whatever else to bring with me, snack, like lots of snacks. When you're out there for 28 hours, you gotta have a lot of snacks. That's kind of when you're running around, like I'll always have something in my pocket. I'll just like pick at it, and sometimes you don't get to go back to the resident room for hours and hours because you're just, you know, go, especially like on the weekends, you're just going up and down the floors, you know, like constantly just like seeing patients, answering pages, you know, helping whatever it is that needs help with.